friends, it's Valerie. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. I would love if you would hit that subscribe button and join my YouTube family. This video is going to be a collaboration that is hosted by Tamara from Southern Wife Everyday Life, and it's going to involve a lot of lovely ladies that I have got to have the pleasure of talking to. And this collab is about cookbooks, so it's pretty cool because if you're like me, I tend to veer towards the digital side of things nowadays, and so it was really cool to go back to like actual cookbooks. And I had to borrow this from a family member because I don't even keep cookbooks anymore. So I'm going to be doing this Crockpot one with some incredibly easy recipes in them, and I'm going to have 3 main meals for you today. I will leave a link in the description box down below that will include the link to the playlist as well as Tamara's channel. So let's just get to it. Alright, so this is going to be the cookbook that I'm using for all 3 recipes that are in this video, and this is the Rival Crockpot book, and it's supposed to be incredibly easy recipes, and they were pretty easy, so that's a bonus, of course. And let's see, I tried to tabble a few pages here. So one of them is going to be the chicken and wild rice casserole. Doesn't that look amazing? And then the chicken and spicy black bean tacos. And my favorite of the bunch here is going to be these Asian BBQ skewers. They were amazing, so you definitely should give these a try. And let's get to these recipes. To start off, you're going to need 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs, and I'm just trimming off any excess fat that I don't want on there. You can leave it if you'd like. And then you're going to take each chicken thigh and cut it into 4 pieces that are about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in thickness. And just go ahead and repeat that process with all of your chicken thighs. Next, you're going to need some 7-inch long wooden skewers, and I actually got 12-inch ones on accident. I didn't even really think about it. And so I had to break off like the excess length or they wouldn't fit in the crock pot. So if you can't find any, you can just snap off the ends. And if there's any type of splinters, you can just use like kitchen shears to just cut them right off very easily. And it was just an extra step. So if you can find the 7-inch ones, just grab those instead. And you're going to go ahead and thread your chicken onto your skewers. And mine took about 2 of the pieces. Unless they were smaller or thinner pieces, then it took 3, which is more of what I get to towards like the end when I'm kind of like almost done with all the chicken. And just thread it on and place it in the bottom of your crock pot. I'm using a 6-quart crock pot. I have a couple different crock pots, but I had to use one that had that capacity just because it was easier to fit the length of the skewer versus like a 5-quart crock pot. Now to a bowl, I'm going to go ahead and add in 1/2 cup of soy sauce as well as 1/3 cup of brown sugar, and it's supposed to be packed, as well as I added a little bit extra brown sugar, but I added a little bit of like the dark brown sugar. I didn't really measure it out, just a small little scoop of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 tablespoons of sesame oil, as well as 3 cloves of garlic that I'm mincing with my little garlic tool here. And I had, like, these were the last of my garlic cloves, and of course they were like those tiny little ones, but your girl needed all the garlic she could get, and it was kind of sad that I was out because typically I add more than what the recipe even really calls for. But anyway, so I'm just going to go ahead and mix that all together and just get those sugars dissolved in there. And then it tells you to reserve 1/3 cup of the sauce and set it aside for later. And now you're going to go ahead and take your crock pot with the skewers in it and pour your remaining sauce over your skewers. I gave it a quick stir again because I still felt like some of the sugars weren't dissolved at the bottom there. But yeah, just go ahead and pour that over your skewers. And I kind of took some tongs and tried my best to kind of like move them around in the sauce so they can kind of get coated a little bit better. I didn't want like, you know, like between the layers of the chicken to have like no sauce, because I didn't want, like, I wanted all that flavor, you know. So just go ahead and try your best there. I know there's not a lot of space, but just do what you can. If you need, you can even use your little basting brush. And here I'm just putting in the crock pot on low, and I'm using my football crock pot because it's actually the only one I have that's a 6-quart. So yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and put that on low, and you're going to cook that for 2 hours, and then at 2 hour mark you're going to go ahead and turn the skewers over. I found that easiest to do with tongs and a spatula because they stuck together, and I just used the tongs to separate because I didn't want them to continue to cook like being stuck together. I was kind of afraid that in the end it would be really hard to get them apart, but they just need a little bit of a pry there, but it all worked out in the end. And you're going to go ahead and let those cook on low for another hour. So in total you will have cooked them for 3 hours on low. Now I thought some zucchini and white rice would pair with this deliciously and my kind of meal, so I'm just cut up some zucchini. I put a little bit of oil on it, and I'm just seasoning it how I want, mostly with a lot of garlicky type of seasonings, and I'm just going to go ahead and toss those like to coat them and place them in my air fryer basket, and I'm going to go ahead and just cook those or air fry them at 400 degrees. I do anywhere from 15 minutes or less, just depending how crunchy you like them and how thick you cut those pieces. Now here is those chicken skewers in the crock pot when they were all done. And now is when you would go ahead and put that reserve sauce on your skewers. But I actually tasted it and I wanted a little bit more sweetness to it, more of that teriyaki style like sweetness, so I added a little bit extra brown sugar, some sesame oil, a pinch of red pepper flakes, a little extra soy sauce, and I heated that up as well so it could not be cold, because while those were cooking I went ahead and put it in the fridge. So I warmed it up, and now I'm just putting it on top of my skewers. I'm kind of trying to use the tongs to get them all in the sauce, but I found the best method at this point was to take my basting brush and just dip it into that liquid and keep basting it all over the skewers. And then I'm going to go ahead and top it with the tablespoon of sesame seeds. Mine aren't toasted, they're just regular sesame seeds, and the thinly sliced scallions. I believe it called for half a cup. I didn't really measure, I just went ahead and cut them right over. I didn't want to get a cutting board again. I just cut them with these kitchen shears right over on top, and there I made some Instant Pot white rice to go on the side. These were so amazing. We were in love with them. Like, oh man, my boyfriend was raving about them. This was my favorite meal of this whole like series from this cookbook. It was fabulous. It was actually meant as an entertaining dish, but it made a great dinner when you added some rice and a vegetable on the side. I loved the flavor, and I'm definitely going to be having this again. So the recipe says to start off by cooking 2 pieces of bacon in the microwave for 1 minute. I actually chose just to pan fry them. I'm not really a huge fan of making things in the microwave like that. But yeah, so I just went ahead and pan fried those up. They got a little more crispy than they probably should have, but it wasn't really going to matter in the end because they were going to get softened by the liquid in the crock pot. So it also calls for a half a cup of diced onion. So I just had this piece of onion. It was pretty close to the amount that I needed. I actually thought I had a whole new onion and I didn't. So yeah, so just dice up some onion, and then it calls for a half a cup of diced celery. For me, that was about 2 stalks of celery. I cut them in half lengthwise, and then I just diced them into some smaller pieces there. Next, you're going to take your 2 slices of chopped bacon and place them on the bottom of your crock pot. For this, I'm using a 5-quart crock pot, and then it calls to put 3 tablespoons of olive oil in the bottom. I used 2 tablespoons of the bacon grease that was left in the pan, and then the last tablespoon of olive oil. And then you're going to go ahead and place your chicken thighs on the bottom of the crock pot on top of that bacon. And actually this recipe calls for regular chicken thighs, not skinless. I'm using a skinless kind. If you're using the kind with the skin, put the skin side down on the crock pot. And then you're going to place your onions and your celery on top of that, as well as 2 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, a 1/2 teaspoon of dried sage, and I actually didn't have any dried sage, so I used another herb that would complement chicken, like rosemary, and I just grinded that up using this IKEA little mortar and pestle. And then you're going to go ahead and add on your rice, and it says converted long grain rice, 1 cup. That basically means like parboiled rice. So look for that when you're looking for your rice. And you're going to go ahead and add 4 ounces of wild rice and then 6 ounces of brown mushrooms. I'm using an 8-ounce container and it says to quarter them. I didn't use whole ones. I used pre-sliced ones. So that just made my life a little bit easier. And then you're going to add 3 cups of hot chicken broth on top, or enough to cover your chicken. And then you're going to just cook that on low for 3 to 4 hours until your rice is tender. Now I want to make a big note here that my rice was not tender. If you can see, it rose out of the liquid, which of course I didn't notice because I wasn't really paying attention to the crock pot, but it rose out of the liquid, so the top layer was not softened enough. It still had crunchy bits to it. This recipe was really good, but I looked up other versions of something similar, and it does seem that the rice being under the chicken would have been a better option. So putting the chicken on top would have worked way better. Your rice would have stayed under the liquid and I wouldn't have had that issue. So when you make this, just switch that out. I'd put the wild rice on the bottom, then the parboiled rice, and just place your chicken on top. It will your chicken will still cook fine, and your rice will have had all the liquid to cook. But this meal tasted very good. Like, it was super delicious. So I loved it. I'm definitely making it again. I loved how easy it was, just throwing it all in the crock pot, of course. But definitely got to put that rice on the bottom if you want it to work out for you without moving things around like I had to do. I'm starting off by spraying the bottom of my 5-quart crock pot with some cooking oil. Then you're going to take a can of black beans and rinse and drain them and place them on the bottom of the crock pot, and a can of Rotel. And the recipe says to drain that as well, and then just pour that on top of the black beans. And now we're going to go ahead and make the rub for our chicken. And for that, we're going to combine 1.5 teaspoons of chili powder with 3/4 teaspoon of ground cumin and 1 teaspoon of olive oil, and then just go ahead and mix that all together until it becomes like a pasted consistency, and that is what we'll use to rub on our chicken. He calls for 12 ounces of boneless, skinless chicken breast. I'm just using 2 chicken breasts. It might equal closer to a pound. But yeah, I don't want to like cut part of one off. So yeah, just go ahead and pat those dry first, and then take your rub and just kind of rub it all over all of those chicken breasts. You want to get it nice and evenly on all the parts of the chicken breast. This is going to be your seasoning. In fact, I would have liked more seasoning for this, maybe like some extra chili. It didn't really taste too spicy for my preference, so if you like things spicy, add some extra chili powder. And then just go ahead and place those chicken breasts in the crock pot, and you're going to cook this on high for 1 hour and 45 minutes. My crock pot just has 2 hours on it because it doesn't do minutes. Anyway, so now I'm going to go ahead, when it was almost done, and prep some taco style ingredients. So whatever you like for your tacos. I like shredded lettuce. I didn't get to go to the store to get shredded lettuce, but I have this bag of like romaine salad mix. It works just fine. I'm just chopping it up so that it's a little bit more of a like smaller shredded consistency. I also like tomato on my crunchy tacos, so I'm just gonna go ahead and dice up a tomato. And for cheese, you can use, of course, any cheese you like. I really like grating cheese when it comes to tacos like this, and I love like a sharp cheddar. I just think that tastes so amazing, so I went ahead and just shredded up some sharp cheddar cheese. And here's a quick little view of it when it's all done, just so you can kind of see what it would look like when you're done. And I went ahead and removed the chicken breast from the crock pot, and I'm just using my forks to break that chicken apart. It's just falling right apart, which is of course very great. I believe the recipe says to slice it. It was just easier for me to use my 2 forks, but I'm not shredding into a really thin shred. I'm still leaving it like into some nice chunkier pieces, and I'm just going to do that with both chicken breasts. And next, the recipe says to remove the bean mixture to a bowl. I didn't do that. It also said to add a little tablespoon of oil to it. I didn't do that either. I just kind of left the juices, but I used a slotted spoon to make sure that my tacos weren't all super soggy. And those are the taco shells I'm using. I'm using jumbo taco crunchy shells, and I baked those according to the package directions. These were really good. I made my Spanish rice on the side, and I just had to go ahead and add some extra like hot sauce for my liking because I really didn't feel they were as spicy. But I loved how easy this recipe was, and I hope that you guys enjoy all of these recipes. Definitely give those skewers a try. They were fabulous, one of my new favorites, and thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos, and I hope you all are having an amazing week.